What's up, everybody? This is a quick tutorial of how I made Trampolines Back to You remix. We are going to start from the beginning and work our way all the way to the end. Don't worry about this master chain. The whole thing's going to be sent off to get mastered. So I'm just going to I'm just going to keep everything on the way I had it. But don't worry about my master chain at all. Forego that because it's probably not going to even be used. So I this is I have a cough, by the way. So this is gonna be a funny video, but I did not keep everything super clean. That's one of the things I wish I would have done better on this whole session remix. I just kind of went for stuff and was grouping, blah blah blah. I really learned a lot from doing this whole song that I should keep my housekeeping cleaner. So the first thing, like, look at this. This is 4 audio tracks, and 2 of them are or 3 audio tracks. 2 of them are silenced. 1 is the actual final deal. You know what I mean? But you want to keep everything clean. There should be 1 track here with the final and all that stuff. Now, the reason I keep extras is because if I want to go back to the original file or before all the processing, I can. So that's why I do it. Be careful with grouping because for some reason I had this problem back in like 2016 or 15, whatever it was. For some reason, when you group, it doesn't really process the Ableton can be funny sometimes. It can like you'll bounce that track, but it won't process the VSTs or the audio effects on the group. It'll just process like this file. So I usually, before I group, bounce everything, ungroup it all, and then bounce all that. I just grouped it here to when I was doing the production. So let's get into it. Trampolines, Carrie and Lane sent me this awesome guitar, but there was a problem with it. when I initially got it, the guitar was not on beat, like 100% on beat. I'm talking, it was on beat, but like it wasn't like exact. What I had to do is go through here and quantize it to be exactly on the beat. Once I did that, the whole thing started clicking better. So when you get an audio sample, just make sure you're, taking the time to quantize it. Good housekeeping makes a great producer. So I'm just going to rename this guitar, and that takes care of the guitar. Anything that I deem red means we're done with it, and anything that's green means we still need to talk about it, just for visual sakes. Okay, so the vocals, I'm actually not even going to go over this. I'm just going to go over the beat. The vocals is what they sent me. It's a remix. Well, not really a remix. I think they sent me a beat and said, we want to do this better. We only produced it for like a day, and it's just a cool idea. Can you, spice it up? So the vocals you'll hear that on the song. I will come back to this at the end and just show you, reverse reverb, stuff like that. But vocals are a huge part of if not the biggest part of any track, unless you're like primarily a like production producer, But yeah, the vocals are an instrument themselves. You need to take time. I use Melodyne Studio. It's worth every bit of $800. I also use CLA plugin from Chris Lord Algae. That's a good one. I use Nectar from Isotope. I use Mangler for the spread feature. That's from Unison. There's a lot of things that I use in my VST, toolbox to make the vocals shine or to pan them. Like on CLA, I use the stereo spreader wide, just to like get them where I need them, if I don't have time to do double takes and pan left, pan right, things like that. But Melodyne is probably my first go-to, or Ontera's Auto-Tune. I haven't actually ever used that, but that's industry standard. So just for vocals, for the sake of like giving the vocals their time, since we've only been recording for 4 minutes, please take your time with vocals. The thing that separates my music from all the years that I produced, 2008 is when I started. It's now 2023. And now is I'm actually taking time with my vocals. Like I would send out my music to Neon Feather, and he would say, "You got to work on your vocals." Or I would send out my music to, Citizen Way, and they'd say, "You got to work on your vocals." And these people who do music, they know, they obviously know what they're hearing and what needs to be better. So now I'm actually taking time on these vocals, and it's changing everything. It really is. It's all these new remixes, all these new songs sound so much better. So take time on your vocals and you'll get a really cool result. So the beat itself starts with, I believe, let's see. All right, so we're going to just turn off, or not turn off, but solo the tracks with everything in it. So let's solo. We'll just keep this off. So I'm going to play you the beat, and we're going to go over step by step what happens. All right. First thing I hear is this guitar. So the guitar actually has a auto filter on it. A lot of auto filters on it. And it's just, you can see it right here. It's just going from low to high, and that's something that I like to do to allow the listener not to hear the same frequency the whole time. So you bring it in, you're bringing it into the beat. So now let's do more of these things. Now the vocals on here are helping out with the beat as well. And that's this that's another auto filter on their vocals right here. You can see it here. It's just adding some movement to the whole deal. And that's it. Guitar, vocals. I've tried so hard to live without you. I almost feel like there should be a riser in there somewhere. I guess I didn't put one, and that's fine. All right, so let's get rid of the vocals because they're gonna be doing their final, final. Whoa, I can't speak. Their final vocals are gonna be sent. So. Okay, what do you hear when you're hearing this intro verse 1? See this right here that says verse 1? This right here is our, we can go ahead and just listen to this whole thing right here. You tell me what you're hearing. I'm hearing bass, and I can put auto filter on this to kind of talk over it. So I'm hearing bass underlying. I'm hearing this hi-hat sample that's kind of, just repetitive throughout the whole thing. And I'm hearing a little snare, and I'm hearing the guitar. So that's 4 elements for the verse. Not much. It gives the vocal room to breathe, and I'll show you how I EQ'd each of these things so that the vocal can have space. Let's start with the bass on this. Serum is where we're getting this bass. This is one from Splice. It's called BA Flume Reese. And I actually have used it for three songs now because it's so good. It reminds me of Weathen and Louis the Child and all these guys that do real big electronic stuff. it's almost like Flux Pavilion too. So I want to incorporate that sound with my sound. I really like those artists, and I like that style bass. I'm not really changing many presets. You can come in here and make it your own through Oscillator 1 or Oscillator 2, or even the filter, or how all these things work. So feel free to take, go on Splice, type in presets, BA Flume Reese, find it, get it, and then make it your own. Great. Whoever made this, thank you so much, because I've used it in so many things here. So with every with every bass, there has to be something to duck, right? The bass has to fit in with your kick. So side chaining. If you don't know what side chaining is, go to YouTube and look it up, because I'm not going to explain it right now. So let's listen and see what's happening here. So no kick. So you're not going to see any side chain working right now, but it does happen later in the beat, and that's why you'll see it over here, or maybe here. You can see now it's working. So the hats are actually from Trampolines themselves. They sent me this track that was the demo, but I really liked the hat that they had going in there, so I just bounced that, which you can see in the other video. I just bounced that straight from their session, which is this one right here. So this is something that they made. I've got a little bit of EQ, just cutting. I didn't like how up front it was. This is what it sounded like before. Just a little bit too much of the highs. And again, if you cut out some highs, you can really let the vocal breathe. So that's what's happening there. Now they did send me a clap, and I tried it out and I just didn't like it. This is what the clap was. I didn't think it fit. So I put my own clap in there. It's a little baby guy, and this one too. So I just made the whole thing a little smaller, and I think that fits the vibe better. So it's just a little bounce. Hey. All right. So that's that. So what happens here? Very cool. The bass rolls out. How do you get a bass to roll out like that? So let's go to our bass and let's find out. Here's our bass. And this guy right here, what is this little audio? So what I did was I used Effectrix. Again, if you don't know what, these plugins are, you need to go look them up on your own time. But Sugar Bytes Effectrix has a preset called Vinyl. So let's open it up and let's see. Where's Effectrix? Sugar Bytes Effectrix. So anything you want to roll or vinyl spin down, you can. You just put this vinyl on it right here, and then it's going to have a slope in the time, so you can make the time really slow, which means like yo, or you can go fast to like 1/16. It'll be like yo, and then you can hear it. So you hear that? It's this spin down. So I just use this plugin, put it on the note that I wanted to, and I got this sound. See how it spins down? And then right here, if you look at the volume just cuts out right there. So in conjunction, this whole sound together makes this noise. See how it cut out for a second? And that's as easy as it gets. You just move on from there. But let's talk about bigger picture. Why is that important? The beat itself you know, you're trying to, sorry if I think this was on, but this is what I was talking about, where the volume cuts out right there, and the audio is what takes place. So let me do that one more time for those who didn't see it. So that's what it sounds like. So why is this important? When you have, if this wasn't there, it would sound very repetitive. This is what I like to call, and some producers in the past have called, ear candy. Ear candy is something that keeps your attention so that you can roll into the next one. It's almost like in surfing, when you have to make a section to get to the next part. If we got any surfers out there, they know what I'm talking about. You're surfing, here comes a critical section that you can tell it's about to the wave's about to pitch, but if you make it past there, there's a bigger reward. Same thing. If you can get your listener past this part, there's a big reward coming, the drop. So we're trying to push them towards the drop, keep their ears listening. This in turn helps the longevity of your song. It helps people share it. It helps it go more viral. It helps people listen, like, save, pre-save, all that stuff. So little ear candies, I can't recommend them enough. Don't overdo it to where people don't want to listen to your music because there's just too much. It's almost like when Mac Miller, I don't know if y'all remember this, but Mac Miller on every song he did used to have an intro, right? The thing would play and he'd be like, ha ha! Or like, but people started writing in the comments like, I can't listen to a Mac Miller song without there being an intro, which was cool. I liked his intros, but you got to know when to like not have an intro too. Maybe just put out a song every once in a while without one. So I'll probably get flack for saying that, but it was at a point in time, it was very true. Maybe it was more of his kids stuff or Blue Side Park or stuff like that, but we don't have to get into that. We're talking about this. I digress. Big Mac Miller fan. So anyways, yeah, ear candy helps the verses, helps things get to the next part. So let's keep on going. Ear candy. Now this, I put a harmony on the bass, which sounds pretty weird. But if you take out the mid or the lows, then it's not really affecting the mud in it. It's just like you can have two things that are mid-range harmonizing together because they're not going to be that muddy. But if you put two basses harmonizing together, it gets muddy pretty quick. So that's why I took out everything underneath 180. I could have gone higher, but as I listened to it on my system and in the car and on my mediums, I felt like 180 was a good spot for it. So let's play those two together and you can hear exactly what those sound like. So that's a bass harmony. It sounds good. It allows the user to think, wow, there's something different happening here. So that is the first initial part of the verse. There's nothing more. It's those 5 elements, and it's very simple. Now, some of you who don't know what reverse reverb is are wondering, what is that cool noise that goes, ee? That's reverse reverb. And reverse reverb is when you take, like I said, look it up on YouTube, but it's when you take like someone singing and then you put reverb on it, you record it, and then you flip it, you reverse it and put it down there. So that's what you're hearing, this right here. So y'all go look up that on your own time because we got a lot to cover in a short amount of time. So moving on to the next part. All right, here we go. First thing I hear is this cool little drum pattern, like choo-pa-pum-pum-pum. Why is it important and what is it doing? So here it is right here. I got this from Splice. It's just a little drum thing. I like it. It's just pa-pa-tum. it's an introduction to the next phrase. It's an introduction to the next thing that's happening instead of it just being stale. So listen what it sounds like without it. Oh yeah, I mean B+, but when you add this dude in it, there's movement. Woo! It's got that kind of like, okay, I want to hear what's going on. And the reason that I put these plugins on it was because without it, it sounded a little bland. It sounds like the original stock. Oh, I downloaded this from Splice. So I put an EQ to cut a lot of the highs away, and I put trash on it from Isotope with the elastic trash setting, and I tweaked something just to get it to sound like I really wanted it to. I felt like it had more of that kind of buzzy sound, so I like it a lot. So let's go up and listen to other elements that are happening here as well. Notice that I'm cutting away the guitar for that moment just for a second. See how it doesn't go all the way, like you're missing this last section. It's very important on your elements to have some sort of silence. You know, that's super important, to cut things away and to, you know, take away parts of the sound in order to let others breathe, but also make space for other things. So that cuts away. There's reverse reverb, and we introduce these two new sounds. Okay, I hear a couple things here. I hear a kick, and I hear a really creepy ba-boo-ba. It's like this like ancient far away sound. So let's find these elements, what they are, what plugins I'm using. So the bass is still the same Serum bass. Nothing has changed. We're still using our same bass line. This is the Flume Reese. Nothing's changing here, except we have our compressor actually working now. And that compressor is ducking the kick. You can hear it making space for the kick. We all know how that works. But this, what in the world is this? Sounds cool. So this is another preset from Serum that I got called RKU BME Pluck Muted Guitar. And what I did was I expanded it. So expanding something is widening it like that. So instead of the guitar being here, it's now a little bit wider. So that's what I use Mangler for on that. The compressor is just ducking it so that when the kick happens, it ducks as well, giving space for the kick. And then I use CLA vocals to get the tone that I wanted on it. So I use this stereo. I talk about this a lot. The pitch, like widening it, stereo wider spreader. So it was here. Now stereo spreader from CLA is going to make it go even further and kind of give like this little untuned effect too. And I put a strong delay, a strong reverb, and a strong treble boost, which essentially is just an EQ boost in wherever the plugin and the creators of the plugin deem fit. And you get this really cool, kind of creepy, far away thing going on. I really like it. As soon as I heard it, I knew it was going to make the cut. And it felt creepy because Lane, what he's talking about, he's you have to marry these two together. He's saying, I'll turn on the vocals right here so you can hear.
Wrong doors. Knocking on the wrong doors in my headspace. Always pacing, stuck in the hallways.
Knocking on the wrong doors in my headspace. That's a very powerful line. Knocking on the wrong doors. So what kind of instrument are you going to use when you're knocking on the wrong door? I wanted something creepy. That's where you get that do, do, do. But I also wanted to incorporate a knock. Like, okay, if he says we're knocking on the wrong doors, let's actually get a knock. So we, me, myself, and I went to Splice and downloaded this door knock right here. And I used it as part of the kick. But it's cool because the human ear is really intelligent, and the human ear knows when something is like for real or not. And so when people hear this song, they're probably gonna, their ears and their brain's probably gonna recognize, oh, that sounds like a door knock. So in conjunction with the kick, which is, I believe, right here, this is their original kick that they sent me. It sounds something like this. It's real thuddy, but it kind of sounds like someone's beating on the door, doesn't it? It's so cool. I love it. Oh, that's probably one of my favorite. I'll probably make this a sample and upload it to Splice, called like door knock kick. That sounds good. You can make a whole beat just after that. Good job, Splice. Okay, and what else is happening here? What are these? So this is a snare that I've added. Oh, these are the original snares. So yeah. Yeah, so the snares don't change. They're just keeping on going. This is a riser. It's a little sweep up to help transition into the next thing. It's very simple. I always keep all my risers in the key of the song. So this one might say G minor, but if you look at it, sometimes the clip transposition is on and it'll be like -6 or +6 or whatever. So that one I may not be practicing what I preach on this one because it looks like I didn't tune it to the song, but I guess I felt like it sounded fine and I'm not worried about it. But usually make sure your risers are in the same key of your song. So if you're in the key of B, make sure the riser's in B. If it's in A, make sure it's in A. If it's in F, make sure it's in F, so on and so forth. So that takes care of this part with Lane singing his part. Now, we're moving on to the build right before the first chorus. So let's listen to what it sounds like. Cool. I love that bass. That's a really deep bass. Now the guitar is still rocking and rolling. We can see that we took the guitar out for Lane's part. There is no guitar on this creepy door knocking seeking adventure. There's no guitar. And that's another thing that I'm trying to explain to people. When you take out an element, it brings them to a new part of the story, and then when you bring the element back, it can redirect them. So now we got the guitar back. And we've got this really cool white noise. Let's check this white noise out. This is called Cashmere White Noise Exhaust 2. Fun fact, this is actually from Trampolines themselves. They sent me the file, this was in there, and I was like, man, that's a good white noise. So, cool white noise. What did we do to it? Processing. Well, we sidechained it to the kick to where it's not just way up here and not ducking, but it is ducking every time the kick hits. So let's listen to it. You can hear it. And what that does is just leave space for the kick to really come through. You can sidechain anything to anything. Sidechaining is such a powerful standard in tools. Now, this bass, we can move on and look at our kicks and bass. This bass right here is from Serum, and it's thuddy. It's right here. The name of this is TP SAJ Bass 808 Straight, and this dude is a big boy. Like when I play this when I played this bass in a truck or in a car, especially if it's got subs, this thing's rattling. So good job whoever created this. A lot of times if you're looking for a bass sound and you just can't find what you're looking for, Splice is a great place in the presets section, especially if you have Serum, to find some really awesome basses because people have already made it, and it's very easy to just go in there and find what you're looking for, tweak it, make it your own, boom, c'est la vie, you're good to go. So the kick, so this is all from their session, which is really cool. We're marrying, you know, my production with their session. I mean, this is stuff they did, so it's really fun to be able to like utilize the hard work that they did. So I just took that. I'm like, all right, that's gonna be the, you know, that's gonna be what we're working with for the drums. And I made this the ghost for the drum to sidechain, so that this bass sidechains to the kick right here. So now if you were to play these in conjunction, it just sounds real smooth. Every time that kick hits, the bass ducks. Now the bass is not ducking here because there's no kick. Actually, it was. That's funny. I just realized it was ducking even on these claps. Well, whatever. It sounds good, and I don't think it needs to be changed. I could unmute this and see what happens. Yeah, I don't think it's making too big of a difference. When I finished the beat and sent it to him, I felt like everything was in order, so I'm just gonna keep it. But usually you usually only sidechain to a kick, but c'est la vie. All right, so let's talk about this whole thing as a whole, this build. You can hear the white noise. You can hear the guitar. You can hear the claps and everything like that. Okay, that's new. That's a new element. What is that? That would be our snare build. So let's go check out this snare build. And for some reason, snare build got its own little section. I don't know why, but it did. So this is what the snare build sounds like. Sounds good. I like it. But what are we using to create it? This is a kit from, I want to say I got this from Splice. It just says kit 4 build B minor 100 BPM. And I have this EQ3 on it right here. And you can actually see my automations here. I'm taking out the low end of it and the mids. Hear how it kind of goes down? It kind of like, it's full bodied, and then as it gets closer to the end, it kind of shrinks to just the highs. Why would I do that? Well, because I have this snare here coming in, and if I put two full-bodied snares at the same time, no one can win. But if I take away the mids and the lows on one and introduce the lows and mids of another, he can win. He can shine. So I didn't want to have two snares competing for the frequency range. This snare right here, let's go ahead and play these at the same time. So you can hear, especially right here, this snare starts taking over, and it starts becoming the main snare that you hear, and it's also being pitched up. How do you pitch something? How do you make it go up in pitch? Well, right here, this is your like automation settings. here's my MIDI. If you click this button, which I believe is the envelope tab, you can go down and select a lot of different things. But if you hit MIDI control, you can actually select, you can just pitch bend anything. So I've got this snare going from 0 to 8191, which is, I think, is just the max you can do. And you can hear how it changes if you were to change it. You can make it go down. Should probably move this for you. Let's put it right here. You can make it go down. You can make it go all the way up, which is what I did. So that's how you do MIDI pitch bend. So just consider that when producing and using Ableton, because they've got a lot of cool things you can do. Now, we do have 2 other elements in this snare build, and that, well, 3, it looks like. And that is this riser, which again should be in the key of B, because that's the key of the song, I believe. You can see it's just a simple riser. It just comes in and everything's cutting off right there. And then I've got this short riser stacked on top of it. And that helps diversify your, what you're trying to, it's like an ear, it's like another ear candy. And there's absolutely no effects on that one. And on this one, I put a big EQ on this guy to make it just as high as possible. So you can just hear it. Only the highs are coming through right there. So there's also this one, there's also one more snare thing going on here. It's kind of weird. It's just like a little snare roll. I don't know. I think I was just trying to be creative and give it more texture. So, but this is what the snare thing sounds like in conjunction with everything together. See how it gives a little live feel? I thought it was a little dry without it. So that's the snare build. So we're done with that. And now we can go into the drop. What is the drop doing, and what does it sound like with the snare build, in conjunction? So here we go. Snare build. Wait a second. Before we go to the drop, I heard something. What is that? What is that little noise, that soundscape right before the drop? What is that? And why is it important? Well, I was watching this video with Illenium and Said the Sky, and right when they were about to do the drop, they put a soundscape. And you could just have silence there, but they chose to put a soundscape. So I thought, okay, in my next production, I'm going to put a soundscape as well. And when I listen to the instrumental by itself, it's just really professional to have a low, because you can see here on the on my EQ, it's very, what is this, like 400 and 500 somewhere in there, just this little 200 to, yeah, it's like 190 to whatever this is, 1K. It's just this little mountain of noise, almost like white noise rumble. But what it does is it doesn't leave your listener like hanging. It leaves them, instead of just dead zero space noise, which sometimes can be good, it's more professional, more mature to have this little soundscape. So I totally suggest you guys should try it out. Try putting soundscapes, EQ in them to where you like them, and see if that helps your beat. Maybe it's additive. Maybe you need to subtract it out of there, but don't be afraid to like learn from other people. Again, Illenium and Said the Sky, one of their Twitch videos, I saw it, brought it into this one, thought that was really cool. Okay, moving on. So now we go to the drop. This is the chorus. Very cool. I I think I'm gonna enjoy listening to that drop for years and years to come. So let's talk about what happens to make it sound the best that I thought it could. First of all, there's this little bass roll up. So remember this bass roll up over here, or roll down, that we used um, on the first bass. So that was my ear candy. What I did was I copied it and pasted it and reversed it to where now it's rolling up. And what that does is it gives the listener, instead of everything hitting on the one, something happens before the one. And it's this mature way of introducing the beat. Of course, I don't let it go past the one because this is where your kick comes in right here. So that's why I stop it there. But it really sounds cool, and you can actually hear the whole beat kind of ramping up. It's kind of like you're turning on the ignition, and you hear that firing up sound. So okay, so let's talk about. There's a lot of elements in this drop, and let's start with the bass. Now, the drums are from Splice. Doesn't get any simpler than this. This is called ABTI3Q Rock Drum Loop. You guys can tell I use a ton of Splice samples, and why not? They are. Let's make sure this is the same deal. They're high quality and they just sound darn good. Hey. Okay. Yeah. I mean, when I heard this sample, I was just like bopping. I was like, man, I can't. That's the one. But I don't want it to sound, so generic. Like I just pulled it straight from Splice, which is what I did. But pull it straight from there and that's it. So you have to change it up. You have to cut it. And let's walk through how my process of that looked like. So I knew that the bass had to go really hard on this song because at a live show, you're going to want to bounce around. You're going to want to jump up and down. Your lighting crew, you're going to sit in the car with your laptop and you're going to be creating lighting. Excuse me. Pray for my cough. I get over it. But you're going to have your lighting guy creating an Ableton MIDI track, blah, 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 for your lights. And the song has to match that energy. So this is kind of crazy. But what I did was I put in one Nexus bass. Okay, let's just start here. This is the bass from Nexus. It's called 808 Boom. It's actually the first preset in Nexus. Wouldn't you believe it? But what I did was I put a bunch of stuff after it to to change the shape of it, like the tones. This is what it sounded like before. Pretty cool. But when you put this saturator on it, woo! Yeah, that's heat right there. So let's talk about saturation. Saturation basically is adding color to anything, and the drive and the depth, the width, the bass, the frequency, the dry wet all plays a part in that. So in Ableton, if you just type in saturate in your audio effects, it comes up under this dry color tab. For anything low, I just pick this warm up lows. So that's what I did. Warm up lows right here. And then I played with the knob until I found something that I liked. But then I accidentally duplicated it and made an exact track right here. And I was like, wait a second. Why, I don't know why I duplicated the bass, but guess what? It sounded dope. So here's what both of these sound like. It's basically a greater gain. And I don't know if these things like phase cancel each other or not, but whenever I played it on the loudspeakers, I was like, dude, this is where the bass needs to be. So sometimes your accidents can be the best things that ever happen in production. So I just kept it. I was like, all right, as long as I have a compressor on each one right here, and they're not the same sound. You can tell this one's a little more saturated and this one's not. But together they sound really good. And this is what they sound like with the beat sidechain. Nice. Super clean. Love it. So that's the story of the bass for the drop. It's very simple. It just comes from Nexus. And I had a little accident that turned out to be a really cool feature. So this is my Ghost sidechain. And now that we're done with like the drums and the bass, let's talk about the top end of everything. So this is what is this? So this is a sample from Splice. It's called a one-shot brass stab. But I took them and I changed their, remember how I talked about the envelope? So you can see on these they are changed. So this is up 3, and you can make it anything you want. But that's the correct one. And then when I was done with it, I just recorded it to audio so I can manipulate this part right here. And now this is what it sounds like. Do you hear how the brass, the reverb on it cuts out? That's because whenever I recorded it, let's see, I must have flattened it already, but I took the time to draw all of these down. I must have already flattened it because I don't see it here, but that's what it looked like. And the reason I do that is to let other elements through. So if you go back to your kicks and everything with sub bass, the element that cuts through right there is the bass. It goes bing bong, bing bong. And it's important to not have reverb from the horns there. It's important for the bass to have that frequency. So that's exactly why you need to cut out and have silence, you know, so that the bass can shine right there. Otherwise, you just have way too many frequencies fighting for space. But that's not the only horn that got added here. There is actually one more, and it's this guy. Now, if you know anything about music theory, this is a harmony. And I added it because I felt like the temperature of the song, the tone of the song was like serious. You know, I believe that when God brings people back to him, it's a serious deal. And it's not like always fun. So that's why I picked that melody. And I totally believe Holy Spirit helped me pick all these melodies. So now let's see if there's any other elements in the front. So in the first part, there's nothing else. But there is, like I'm turning off the vocals. They, of course, help make the beat kind of go. But this part right here is very important to talk about. That's a really, that's a really cool part right there. Notice that I took the horns and I just made it all silent right here. so that the only thing you can hear is these little sound effects. This is starting with this percussion rolling tom. This is like a tom roll. Kind of like reggae, you know. Don't worry about a thing. And I put a delay of 3 on there so that it's just triplets, right? Or whatever it is. And the EQ is I'm cutting out all the low end and just kind of boosting the highs to make it this funky thing up in the air. Underneath that is this riser, kind of like a vinyl riser, like a backspin, but it's rising. So I really like that. That was from Splice. And then of course, c.caff made this really dope drum tom groove right here. It's just big and nasty. So what I did was I gave it space on the panning. I went, hard right, hard left, or I guess medium right, medium left, semi-medium, 10 right, 10, 9 left. So what that does is it's like boom, 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 getting closer and closer to the center. So your ears are going to be like do, 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 and then that kick can bring you right back to where you need to be. And there is, I think, a riser. Yeah, there's a riser right here. It's a reverse reverb. Yeah, that's a really cool. And I did a lot of processing to that too. I've got EQ3 on there, CLA vocals with stereo turned on and compression and just doing stuff that I think sounds good. Manglers on expand again. And the EQ is taming all that. It's all about your ears at that point, just being creative. Now, what's different on the second part of the chorus than the first? Let's find out. Okay, first thing I hear is everything is the same except for one element. Can you guess which element it is? If you said clap, you're correct. I added claps to kind of add body and percussive movement. So this is what the claps sound like. Whoa. That is not a pattern that like I would play by myself. But the reason why I chose this pattern is because I was playing with the, I was playing with the claps and the drums. And it's very important to kind of like give and take. Instead of just doing this the whole time, 4 on the floor, clap, you really want to make it spicy. You really want to take, I probably took like 30 minutes and had to dial in this clap, this magical pattern that obviously is very, like this is a rare pattern, right? So I could also upload this to Splice and call this rare clap pattern, right? It's very different. That's a super, nothing, each one is different than the other. Look, each one has different elements than the other. And what it does is it adds body, it adds texture to your song. It's being very diligent with what you're doing. It's taking time, and I feel like it paid off. I feel like it sounds really cool. One thing to add, I don't know if you noticed, but right here there was a silence, and I took out the beat. The beat should have gone to here, but I took it out. Why? Well, there's a very important bass note that plays right there in Nexus. See how it's all one solid line? And I felt like if I kept these in, it was just getting drowned out. So why not take out the take out the drums for a second to let that bass note hit? So let's listen to what that sounds like with or without. Alright, now let's put this in. Whenever I play the beat with the beat in, I don't hear that bass note very well. I hear the beat. I'm like, yeah, hi-hats and claps and kicks and stuff, yeah. But when I take it out, I'm like, oh, that's just a big, saucy, vibrant bass note, you know? Yeah, hi-hats and kicks and bass. Hi-hats and kicks and bass. Hi-hats, claps and kicks and bass. So don't be afraid to like take out a bunch of elements, and you can see all across the board. If you were to just quarter note, if you were to just go up, you'll see there's nothing. That has no sound. The synth has been ducked in volume. There's nothing here. Everything, every single little thing here up the whole board has just been like completely muted, you know, because silence across the whole thing has to happen, or else you won't hear that bass note. So let's continue on. Now the only other thing I hear is sounds like there's a snare roll in here, and there is. And that's just the original kit from here, but I took out the ending of it and I just custom did a gain like fade on it. So it just kind of comes in real quiet, just kind of fades up. There's no EQ change on this. Excuse me. Yeah, it just kind of is doing its thing. Let me check this here. Yeah, and the device isn't even on. So like the EQ3 isn't even on. This is what it would sound like if it was. It'd just be all highs. So yeah, it's just coming in, and that helps add body. There is this little guy too, making an appearance. Just little snare rolls to try to help the whole beat sound cool. Kind of a little snare roll. And then you can hear the last part is the reverse reverb. And here's another. I think this is the same one as the one before, yeah. Is it? Oh yeah, that one I dropped an octave lower in my clip. See, 2 octaves, 24. And this one is just the regular octave. So that's another way to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I took an element right here, and I thought, how can I reuse it? Well, I just turned the octave down 24, which is 2 octaves, and used it for the front. Put reverb, stuff like that. You're good to go. Notice it's also panned left 14. So that's adding dynamics. It's adding like spread, like width to the whole beat. So that is your drop explained. And I think this is a clap with reverb. Yeah, so this is just a clap with reverb so that it can transition into the verse 2. You can actually hear how it helps. Wait for it. So you can hear that reverb still carrying through. And that's it. That is the drop explained. Now, verse 2 is the same as verse 1. Exactly the same, copy and paste, no surprise. You're even going to hear the little ear candy right here. Ready? 2, 1. Same thing. No change. There's the harmony. Now this is where it does change. Notice I didn't put the, see if I can find it. Notice I didn't put the, this thing back in. Originally I had this cool thing, this cool snare thing to introduce walking up the staircase. I didn't put it on this one because I wanted there to be some change. I didn't want the yes, I did duplicate, which you can see right here. It looks just like a duplication, but I took out this guy and scooted him over here so that there's some change. So sometimes that's all you need to do. Sometimes all you got to do is take something and move it for it to be enough for their ears to hear it differently. So we all know how this was made. We all know about the door knock. We all know about the kick. So, but here's that change. There it is. All of this is just a duplication, except for this part right here. Let's talk about why I changed it and why it's important to have a change. I felt like, again, live, this would be a really fun thing for the audience. I felt like I just got back from a camp in Oklahoma, Camp Walk on Water, and when I was performing live, I thought to myself, you know, how can I like make my live performances more fun? Well, I only have so much energy. I can only jump up and down so much, raise my hands, tell people, get into it. Yeah. But if the music can move them, then my job is so easy. I could literally stand there still and they'd be jumping up and down. And I feel like this sample, when I found it, if you watch the original production video, it shows how much fun I was having. When I heard it, I was like, dude, we got to use this. So it's a big, really cool sample. Just found it on Splice, made it the correct key, and I love it so much. So it fits well, and I think it's gonna help the crowd get into it. It's all full circle. It's all bigger than just how cool you sound on the beat. This is like, you know, music goes into many layers, like onions, ogres and onions. So we got this nice ramp up swell right here. We've already talked about him in the past. We already know about the snare build. It's a copy paste. Here it comes, pitch up. Okay, let's talk about how this noise is being made. We already know about the snare build. We know how that was pitched up. We know about these guys, which is just the snare build, so we're just going to turn that off. But what's happening with the rest of the beat? Like, how am I achieving this sound? Go to your guitar. First of all, our guitar, and we're using this sample colored in this whitish color. I had to chop the beat because instead of changing bass notes, we're actually staying on this one bass note, which is that's funny. Okay, so we're staying on this note right here, which is B, again, the key of the song. And in order to do that, this is a very common thing in like EDM, but you take a sample and you chop it up to just repeat, and it gets smaller and smaller. You go from like 16 to 8 to 4 to 2. So the guitar just does this. It goes back, and then it goes shorter. And I put a EQ3, that's what it sounds like, or an auto filter, yeah, EQ3 right here, to get rid of some of the mids and the lows and just keep the highs, to give space to this right here, which is a, choir, a sub, and what is this right here? Oh yeah, so these are claps too. And then it goes, pretty obvious EDM style thing to do, but notice how they're being filtered. Almost all of these things are having a filter to make way for something else. See, right, watch these right here, the gain low and the gain mid. They just totally filter out. Why? Because I have this ridiculous sub that's super low that needs to take up as many frequencies as I can. And if I got this taking up all the high frequencies. So the sub does this. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know what I mean? Like super fast right there. And then you can actually see it right here. And then you go down here and I just chopped up the vocal right here. And I took my fader tool, as you can see here, and I just faded each one a little more and more to give it some texture and some color. And that's what gives you this really fun build. Super cool. I love it. 3, 4. And again, there's that soundscape one more time. Not leaving any silence on that part, but actually, I mean, you could have had silence. You could have, but I felt as if the soundscape sounded better. Because I think live it's going to sound really good. And that is how that little build was made. Right here. So there's no secrets. There's no like crazy like how is he doing this? It sounds cool. He must have all these expensive things. It's just knowledge on how to use them. This is just a reverse reverb, you know, or a uplift reverse. And in conjunction, when used properly and with space and everything, sounds really good. So let's talk about what else is happening on this drop for the last drop. In EDM, there's like this no kick drop that they do a lot. So like they'll introduce the chorus, but there'll be like one kick, but the whole the whole thing kind of like bounces out, and it's not really there. So I wanted to incorporate that on this part to where it'd be more of an EDM DJ moment. So it'd be like this, and everybody goes, and he can get on the mic right here. Lane will have time to get up on the mic and say something really fun. Maybe he like for instance, maybe he's leaving and this is the last song that he's ending with. He could say thank you at this part. So let's try it. Houston, Texas, thank you so much for coming out. We are Trampolines. Let's go! Woo! You know, something like that where there's a moment. And if you have these songs in your arsenal, you'll know, and your whole team will know, okay, this is where we need to say goodbye. Instead of like ending the song and then saying it, you lose the energy. Say it right before the energy happens, you know. New York City, thank you so much for having us. We are Trampolines, blah, 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 blah. Let's go! And then everybody wins, everybody's happy. So how do we achieve this like EDM style ramp up? It's actually super easy. You take away all the elements and you just filter one of them. And I chose to do the horns and the vocals. So we've got on the vocals, we've got an auto filter right here. And that's on top of the whole thing. Let's see, where is that? Oh, sorry, it's not on the vocals. It's I was confused. It's actually on, yeah, it's right here. See this auto filter? I just put it on the whole beat. So the whole beat's being filtered. And then the auto filter turns off. So this kick right here, where is it? One of these guys is the kick. I think it's this guy. Nope. Let's find him. There he is. Boom. What is this dude? There's a kick somewhere. There he is. So here's the kick that introduces everything. You have one kick, everything else is filtered, and when you release that filter, it goes back to normal. So on right here, this whole group, that's why I like groups, because you can filter stuff and it can sound really good, but just be careful because sometimes it does not. I don't know why. Maybe they fixed it with the update, but I just remember I had that problem before. But yeah. So anyways, it should work in a perfect world. So let's listen and see if there's anything different on the rest of this. Okay, there's a hey. I hear a girl saying hey. And let's find where she is so we can explain. Here it is right here. So this is just from Splice. It's a girl. I typed in vocal shout. And I got this one. Now she is not being transposed. But she is being delayed and expanded via Mangler, and I've got the delay at 4.4, which would just be hey, 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 and I've got it on this thing called Ping Pong. And these are all stock plugins in Ableton. You don't have to always have the expensive stuff. Just use what you got. I've also got this really cool sweep up. It's just something that I reversed. So I put this here first, and then I duplicated it and hit this reverse button right here, and you can see it'll take it and reverse it. And then I just dragged it right here. Easy peasy. And I took the fade tool and I made it right there. And this is what it sounds like. It's not even that clean, but I think it sounds good for the song. And everything else on this is exactly copy and paste. Same thing. So the chorus, there's the only change was this part right here. The rest of this, the 3/4, is the same. So now, last but not least, let's just talk about the outro. What did we do? We added this, which is it's actually in the chorus, but we did it one more time. This is a down sweep. And I believe it was in the key of B. And that's why I used it, because oh, nope. So I did have to transpose this to the key that I needed it. It was originally this. But we made it sound in the key that we're in. Got that going on. And then Serum, the bass, just comes back in one more time. There's no kick, so there's no compression, side chaining happening. And then here's a little roll for you. Now, this is the same roll we used, the same ear candy roll that we used in verse 1 and verse 2. And that's just to roll it out to end the song. And I think that's it. Yeah, just those two. And I think I have her, I know we're not really talking about vocals, but her vocals are in here. So to end this whole music production video, I saw when I was watching Elenium and Said the Sky, when they had vocals that were like super cool, but they wanted to add an EQ to it to change it up, they would usually, or at least for the one that I saw, they would put like a filter on it. And watch this right here. Watch what happens. See how it's like automating and filtering it out? Now you can do this with just the EQ8. That's what I used, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm taking their trick with a vocal, and I'm putting it at like, I don't know, let's see, was this 400, and I'm filtering it from probably 800 to 7K. Oh, it goes all the way to 14. It just opens up. And this is a harmony underneath it doing the same exact thing. And then the whole thing ends. So, there you have it. From start to finish, how it was made. Now, a lot of you, if you're like me, are wondering, thanks, Chase, for showing me all the plugins you use. Thank you for showing me, basically making the video so I can pause it and I can look up the VSTs you're using, look at your settings. And the most important thing, too, is look at my volume settings, See what volumes the kick was at. See what volume the claps have been, their vocals. Here's their, -5, 0, 0, 0, like look at the wavelength, see how much it is in between 0, do these things. Like, this is how I learn organically, studying people who are like taking time to put these videos online. If you have any questions, hit me up on YouTube or Instagram, and I'd be happy to answer production stuff for you. I'm trying to learn always. One thing to remember, this master chain is not really that important because I usually turn all of it off and I send it to somebody at 32-bit AIF or WAVE or FLAC or whatever, and then they do all of the processing for mastering. Now, I would suggest sending off this production to a mixer, if you have a really good, that's all he does is like he hears frequencies, he knows where they sit. You can send all of these track outs or stems to him or her. They'll mix it for you. Then you'll send that mix to the mastering engineer who will master it for you. And then you have two objective ears, I believe, listening to your music and getting feedback. So don't be afraid to do that. I hope you learned something, guys. This is gold right here, a sneak peek into how records are being made. These are the records that are going on Spotify, that people are listening to, that people are playing, that you'll see them performing live. So yeah, this is how I do it. I use Ableton. A lot of people use Logic, Pro Tools. It's really whatever gets the job done. This is my canvas. I hope you enjoyed my painting. My name is Chase, aka Dawn Patrol. Jesus loves you, and so do I. I'm going to have a lot more of these production tutorials in the future. Try to keep them to an hour and 30 minutes, 2 hours at the most. But I like to be detailed, as you can tell. I like to, actually show you something worth, coming back and watching. So until next time, thank you so much. Peace.